Om Gam Ganapatye Namaha. Kaliyuga Kalpataru. Appendix. Miracles after entering Brindavana. Chapter 9. The Master Architects of Mantralaya. The credit for developing of the sacred Mantralaya Kshetra and the propagation of the glory of Sri Rayaru goes to four eminent saints: Sri Susilendra Tirtharu, Sri Suvatendra Tirtharu, Sri Suyamendra Tirtharu, Sri Sujamendra Tirtharu. The Varakumara, that is adopted successor of Sri Suyamendra Tirtharu. Number 1. Sri Susilendra Tirtharu. Sri Susilendra Tirtharu received the Paramahamsa Ashrama from Sri Sukratendra Tirtharu, who was known in his pre-monastic life as Venugopalacharya and held the Sarvagna Simhasana from 1903 to 1912. He ruled the Srimadacharya Mahasamsthana from 1912 to 1926. However much we try to describe the greatness of Sri Susilendra Tirtharu, it would still be insufficient. He was a jewel among the Paramahamsa lineage, endowed with virtues like gentleness and nobility, and a scholar par excellence in Vedic knowledge. He was a staunch defender and restorer of the Dvaita Vedanta doctrine, dear to the community of scholars, a nourisher of the learned, a fulfiller of the desires of his dependents, and a towering tree of generosity. He was deeply devoted to spreading the glory of Sri Rayaru, a benevolent provider of Annadana, that is free food, patron of spiritual assemblies, that is Sabha, and the living embodiment of Sri Guru Rayaru himself. He was revered by both scholars and lay people across the land. He remains worthy of remembrance even every morning. The 14 years of his leadership over the Pita were important and unforgettable. Through philosophical debates, doctrinal establishments, teachings and lecturers, support to scholars, care for dependents, disciples and devotees, and the fervent spreading of Sri Rayaru's glory, Sri Susilendra earned a distinguished place in the world of spiritual knowledge and gained a wide-reaching reputation. His name is immortal in the history of the Dvaita Vedanta tradition. His name in his pre-monastic life was Raja Krishnacharya. As per the command of Sri Suprajendra Tirtharu, he studied along with his elder brother Venugopalacharya, who later became the illustrious Sri Sukratendra Tirtharu from 1903 to 1912 after taking Paramahamsa Ashrama. He was a distinguished expert in Nyaya Shastra, having studied under the celebrated translator and scholar Shamacharya of Gondalu. Thereafter, under the guidance of Sri Suprajendra Tirtharu, he studied Nyaya, Vedanta, Mimamsa and other scriptures. With his exceptional intellect, skill in debate, and eloquence in teaching, Krishnacharya outshone others and became renowned in scholarly circles. Truly, he was a blessed son of Saraswati, the goddess of learning. In general, among the hundreds of events that occur in human life, a few stand out as major turning points. It is during these special occasions that a person's true greatness and capabilities are revealed. The same applies to an institution. This too is seen in the flow of tradition and history. An institution may run uniformly for some time, continuing along a set course, until a special occasion arises, at which point it ascends to the highest peak and spreads its influence in all directions. Over time, this vital essence once again rises and shines anew. The cause behind such surges are extraordinary individuals, great divine personalities, whose footprints remain eternally imprinted along the path of time. The sacred lineage of the knowledge that began with the primordial sages like Sanaka and others and continued to the tradition of Sri Madhvacharya was kept alive and perfected by illustrious saints to Sri Sukratendra Tirtharu. Into this grand tradition now emerged another radiant figure who breathed new life into it for the people. The great spiritual luminary was Sri Susilendra Tirtharu, pre-monastic name Krishnacharya. Krishnacharya spent some time performing the duties of a householder, that is, Grahasthashrama Dharma, but eventually realized the futility of worldly life, became dispassionate, and immersed himself in spiritual contemplation. He developed a strong desire to spread philosophical teachings. Sri Susilendra Tirtharu nourished that desire like watering a tender vine. And what more can be said? Acharya, that is Krishnacharya, founded the scholarly assembly called Sri Samira Samaya Samvardhini. Seeing that he undertook an initiative typically reserved for kings and Pitadipatis, that is, heads of monastic seats, the people were astonished by his courage. He invited great scholars, well versed in all scriptures and representing the three major philosophical systems from across the country. He organized scholarly assemblies, that is, Vidvat Sabhas, involving scriptural debates, examination for students, and intellectual discussions on the six schools of philosophy. Shadarshanagalu. Not only that, he conducted simultaneous sabhas in two different locations within a single year, generously honoring the scholars and students. In doing so, he earned widespread praise and was celebrated as Pandita Poshaka, that is, nourisher of scholars, and Sabha Krishnacharya, that is, Krishnacharya of the great assemblies. The name of Acharya became a household word. It became evident that by Acharya's extraordinary service, Srimad Acharya and Guru Rajaru were supremely pleased with him. Their grace glance fell upon him. Srimad Acharya and Guru Rajaru resolved to elevate Krishnacharya, who had served them with such devotion, to their seat of learning and wisdom. Delighted by the knowledge disseminated of his pre-monastic younger brother, Sri Susilendra Tirtharu deemed him worthy of becoming his successor. On Vijayadashmi, the auspicious 10th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Ashwini in 1912 CE, he initiated him into the Paramahamsa Ashrama and performed his coronation under the name Sri Susilendra Tirtharu, appointing him as a sovereign ruler of the Vedanta empire of Srimad Acharya, and then withdrew into contemplative life. Sri Narayana Bhanapara. Auspicious Vijayadashmi, the divine wedding festival of Lord Venkateshwara, the sacred anniversary of Sri Madhvacharya, to ascend the throne of Sri Madhvacharya's seat of knowledge on such a holy day was indeed a rare fortune. It can be said that among the Pitadipatis of the great seat of the Dvaita tradition, this fortune of coronation on such a sacred day was bestowed solely upon Sri Susilendra Tirtharu. That in itself reveals the greatness of this saint. If Sri Guru Rajaru was a special embodiment of Sri Vayudeva, then Sri Susilendra Tirtharu was a unique spiritual manifestation of Sri Rajaru. He accomplished many rare and extraordinary feats and earned enduring fame as long as the moon and the sun endure. Speaking of his greatness is nothing but recounting the glories of Sri Rajaru himself. That is why even today, scholars celebrate him as the living image of Guru Rajaru. Upon becoming the head of the Pita, Susilendra Tirtharu continued conducting the scholarly assemblies, that is Vidvat Sabha, that he used to host during his pre-monastic life, now under the banner of Sri Samira Samaya Samvardhini Sabhe, held in Nanjankud. That assembly was one of a kind. It was held in the royal palace at Nanjankud over 3 days, focused on the 6 schools of Indian philosophy, and was considered unprecedented in all of South India. Over 100 learned scholars, representing the 3 major schools of thought, that is Trimata, experts in all scriptures, participated. Hundreds of students, poets, musicians, writers, artists, and Haridasas gathered there. Each day, 5,000 to 6,000 people took part in the sessions and returned fulfilled. Daily events included sentence-based debates, that is Vyakharta, intellectual colloquion, that is Vicharagoshti, lectures, Harikatha, that is divine storytelling, music, artistic performances, and student examinations, all held under the leadership of Sri Susilendra Tirtharu, making the event shine like Indra's celestial court. During this time, Sri Susilendra Tirtharu's extraordinary brilliance and scholarship in Nyaya, Mimamsa, Vedanta, and other scriptures amazed the entire learned assembly. These grand proceedings were colorfully described by the poets and writers in Kannada literature, delighting all. Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu generously bestowed gold and silver vessels, silk cloths, that is, pitambara, shalu, and garments to the scholars. Not just to them, he also gave generous honorariums to students, poets, singers, haridasas, and artists, bringing them great joy. From that time onwards, the extensive nurturing of scholars, propagation of the principles of Dvaita Vedanta and Dharma by Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu grew year by year. This brought him the widespread and a lasting fame of being called Sabha Swamigalu, that is, Lord of Scholarly Assemblies. Through him, Sri Rayaru revealed hundreds of miracles, displaying the profound depth of his grace that resided in Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu. Out of concern for the vastness of content, we have mentally resolved not to detail those here. Under Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu's guidance, more than 10 advanced students studied Nyaya, Mimamsa, and completed Dvaita Vedanta philosophy and became renowned as distinguished scholars. Not only did he teach personally, but to ensure deep scriptural study thrived, he established formal schools, that is, Padashalas, in Nanjanagod and Mantralaya, making it easier for hundreds of students to pursue their education. Traveling across all of South India, he engaged in victorious debates, that is, Vada Digvijaya, established philosophical positions, gave lectures, honored scholars, uplifted disciples and devotees, and propagated the glory of Rayaru, thereby earning universal reverence and respect. Sushilendra Tirtharu's service at Mantralaya remains unforgettable. He spent many years there, offering daily and special services to Sri Guru Rayaru. During the time of the annual Aradhana, he organized 5-night festival, Pancharatra, arranged lodgings and meals for thousands of devotees, ensured daily Hastodaka, that is, offerings, adored the deity, provided meals for priests, brahmanas, and volunteers, and held scholarly assemblies. For the convenience of the devotees visiting for Sri Rayaru's darshana and service, he built stone mantapas. He established a system for daily distribution of Sri Rayaru Prasada to the visiting pilgrims, which led to more devotees coming to Mantralaya. In doing so, he laid the foundation for the present-day development of Mantralaya and earned renown as one of its architects, that is, Shilpi. One of the most significant events during his tenure was his visit to Udupi. He accepted the invitation of Sri Vibhudapriya Tirtharu, the learned and revered head of the Adamaru Mata, who then occupied the Paryaya Pita. The grand procession held there was unprecedented. The magnificent welcome extended to Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu by Paryaya Pitadipati was deeply moving. Even today, the elders who witnessed it recall the event with awe and goosebumps, describing it with great emotion. Having the audience, that is, darshan, of Lord Sri Krishna, Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu was overwhelmed with boundless joy and devotion. Witnessing his deep devotional surrender and radiant divine brilliance, the heads, Yatishwararu of the 8 matas, that is, Ashtamata, were astonished. His generosity won over everyone's heart. He served Lord Krishna in many ways, honored the head of Ashtamatas with great reverence, brought joy to scholars, students, members of the matas, local dignitaries, and dharma devotees by generously distributing wealth, gold, clothes, and ornaments, and was widely praised for this. From that time onwards, for a full week, the Sri Krishna festivals conducted by Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu were truly unprecedented. Sri Sushilendra Tirtharu established a bond of heartfelt spiritual friendship between his Mahasamsthana and the 8 Ashtamatas of Udupi. As a mark of his visit to Udupi, he had the Brindavana, that is sacred tomb shrine of Sri Guru Sarvabhauma, that is Sri Raghavendra Swamigulu, ceremoniously installed within his own mata in the presence of the Ashtamata heads and thousands of devout followers. From then onwards, pilgrims and townspeople could have darshan of Sri Rayaru daily, serve him, and spiritually uplift themselves. It was an unforgettable sight, an extraordinary event that remains permanently etched in the history of the Mahasamsthana. When someone asked, why was such an exceptional honor never before granted to anyone else, conferred upon this saint by the Paryaya Pidadipati Sri Vibhudapriya Tirtharu, smilingly replied, that was the honor we offered to the emperor of the Gurus, Guru Sarvabhauma. Everyone was stunned in awe. This clearly revealed the grand personality of Sri Susilendra Tirtharu and the presence of Sri Rayaru's divine grace within him. From Udupi, Sri Susilendra Tirtharu journeyed back to Rishetra. There, at the sacred Brindavana of Sri Dhirendra Tirtharu, who was born the head of Sri Madhvacharya's Mahasamsthana and a descendant by pre-monastic lineage of Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu, and a great sage of knowledge, devotion, renunciation and penance, Sri Susilendra Tirtharu chose to reside for some time. While there, his health began to decline. Not wanting any disruption to the daily worship of Sri Moolarama, the revered deity of the Mahasamsthana, he confirmed the Paramahansa Ashrama upon Sri Krishnacharya, his pre-monastic nephew and a great scholar from the Hulimane family of Chitradurga, a maternal grandson in Sri Rayaru's lineage, and coronated him with the name Sri Survatindra Tirtharu, blessing him as the next sovereign of the Mahapita. Sri Susilendra Tirtharu had long earned to receive a vision of Sri Rayaru. He grieved deeply that he had not yet been granted this. With complete surrender, he fervently prayed to Guru Rayaru. Pleased beyond measure by Sri Susilendra Tirtharu's profound and unending service, Guru Sarvabhauma, Sri Rayaru, appeared directly before him in divine form and blessed him. Filled with supreme bliss, Sri Susilendra Tirtharu concluded his earthly duties and entered Sri Narayana's eternal meditation on the third day of the bright fortnight, that is Shuddha Tritiya of the month of Ashada in 1926 CE. Just like a brilliant sun that shone across the Madhva's firmament and then set, so too did the life of Sri Susilendra Tirtharu, resplendent and unforgettable in its glory. I worship Guru Susilendra Tirtharu, a pure and noble ocean of nectar, whose glorious fame shines in all directions, whose virtues are praised by the wise. Hari Om. Om Sri Krishnarpanamastu.